Hey there, I'm Miss Osuna and we are going to do another tutorial. This time we are going to do an advanced croquis pose. So start off with your oval and your straight line and set your paper up. Make sure that your oval for the head is about 1 inch from top to bottom. And then just let gravity drag down for your straight line. Then we're going to measure as we always do. So every head space, like I said, is about 1 inch. You can just rip off a piece of paper if you're not exactly sure and put a dash at the top and the bottom of your oval and just use that to make all of your measurements on that center vertical line. All right, so now we're just going to drag those lines over to the right and put our numbers. So we have a total of 9 head spaces, or you can do a 10 head croquis if you like. Now for the guideline for our shoulders, it's at 1.5. Go back to the center line. The left side's lower, right side higher. Drag your hand left and right. So the guideline is there just to tell us where the shoulders are and what the angle is. We are referencing that center line for our measurements, so the middle of that guideline is right at 1.5. That's right in between 1 and 2. Go on ahead and write down on your piece of paper 1 head space. That way you don't get confused when you measure the second one. All right, so up next we're going to measure off 1.5 head spaces. So we're just going to take our paper and measure from the very top of our head down to 1.5. Again, we're using that center vertical line. So now we're going to write down 1.5 head spaces. Up next, we're doing the guideline for our waist. Our waist for this croquis is at 3, left side higher, right side lower. Okay, now in order to get the bending motion, because the back is being curved and she's bending forward, we are going to start at our waist and put our parenthesis shape going upward. So starting from the waist, on number 3, we are making a parenthesis shape that faces left, and it's on the right side of our center line. And then you'll just move over and make the other parenthesis, so that you can start to see that bending motion in her torso. Now just take your paper that measures 1.5 heads, line it up on the far right parenthesis, and that tells you where the left parenthesis will go. Now you make your adjustment. Once again, we measured 1.5 for the shoulder width. That's 1.5 heads, and the right side tells us where the left side, and now we adjust and we can move forward. You can check your waist measurement, you can eyeball it, but this one is going to be a little smaller than 1 head. Usually our waist is around 1 head. It can be bigger or smaller depending on your target market. Now for our lower portion, so the waist to hip area, starting with a very soft curve of our parenthesis. Let's put in our guideline at 4.25. This is where the crotch is, the crotch and the hip. And then at the waist you have those soft parentheses to start. Then we're going to drag those down so that we can land on our hip guideline. All right, so in the center of our crotch, we're putting our dash. On the right side, we have a parenthesis facing right, and now we've turned the parenthesis on the left. And then we connect our waist to our leg openings. Let's do that once again. So we were on that guideline, and that's 4.25 for our crotch and our hip. Put our dash on the right side, parenthesis facing the right. On the left side, our parenthesis also facing the right. And then we're just connecting our waist to those leg openings. Now we're going to need some guidelines for our legs. So we have our bending at the upper portion of our body. We have our bikini bottoms. So start on the left side, the middle of that leg opening, drag it down to the center. On the right side center of the leg opening, drag it to the right. Then we're going to put in our knee guideline parallel to the crotch guideline. Now we add the knee socket, and we're starting on the left side because that's the side that's supporting her. And you're going to go down toward that socket. on the left side, you land on the left of the socket, and you come around it and below it. On the right side, you land on the upper end of that socket. Now we add our parenthesis shape facing left for the calf muscle. And then we're gonna put in our socket for our ankle and drag from knee to ankle. Now for the foot, we are starting at our ankle socket. We go down, add your triangle, go back up, and add your backward letter C. For the leg on the right side of our paper, we are going to put our knee socket lower than the one on the left. And we repeat. We drag down from the crotch. We land on the left of the knee socket. We go around and down. On the right side, we finish on the higher part of our socket because that is the back of our kneecap. All right, let's do it. Knee socket, lower on this side of our paper, and drag around and down. This one finishes higher because this is the back of our leg and the back of our knee. And then we are going to get ready to do the lower portion of our leg. All right, so we are going to drag down from our knee toward our ankle, and our ankle is going to finish right around number 8. And then we start going down, triangle, and then we go back up. All right, we make our parenthesis facing left for the back of our calf muscle, drag down towards your ankle, pop in that ankle socket, backward letter C to finish off that ankle. And there we have our second foot. Now, what if we wanted to move and bend her even more? All we have to do is reposition our parentheses above the waist. So you start at the waist and you just make it even further to the right and she could bend even more. So why don't we try that? Either way will work, but I'm trying to help you push your limits and make really avant-garde croquis. So let's reposition our croquis and push those limits and have her curve even more, moving the upper part of her body to the right even further. So then just grab your measurement and make sure you have a 1.5 head space. All right, so now we have our shoulders at 1.5 head space, and we've moved over to the right even further. Once again, either positioning will work, but let's do our guideline for the bust. So it's at 2.25, parallel to your shoulders. And now look to see where is the center and put in your neck. So the center of that shoulder guideline is over to the right now. Put in your neck with that J shape. And now let's move on to our shoulders themselves. Put in a letter N, and the shoulders are raised up because her back is curved. So the shoulders are going to be raised a little higher than that actual guideline. All right, so we are going to now put in the bust. The left side of our bust sticks out a little bit further from our side, and then put in the right side of the bust. So that bust curve sits at 2.25 on that guideline, and that guideline is parallel to the shoulder. All right, so the right side of our bust is only about 1/8 of an inch away from the first curve on your paper. And then make sure you bring the left side up and around. Add in your apex, which is the fullest point on the bust, and that's at about 2. Then it's time for our guidelines for our arms and hands. All right, the guideline for the arm on the right side of our paper is right in the middle of that letter N, and drag it left. We're dragging it through the apex and to the left side of the body. Now go back to the center and measure. 1.5 to 3 is shoulder to elbow, and then 3 to 4.25 is elbow to wrist, and put those 2 sockets in place. And then we're going to flesh out the arms. To flesh out the arms, we go around and down and land on the left and right of our elbow socket, and then we repeat and land on the left and right of our wrist socket. Okay, so for our hand, we are starting going upward with our thumb, and then that curve and go down. And now we are going to move on to the rest of our hand. So we have a straight line right next to our thumb, and then you're going to have the diagonal and then coming back down again. That's going to give you your fingers. Just make sure it's wide enough to have all 4 fingers. So the thumb is on the left and the fingers are on the right of the thumb. Now we just need 3 straight lines to represent the 4 fingers and the W's to represent the knuckles. All right, I'm just going to clean up some of these lines and erase. Be sure that you remember the index finger is closest to the thumb, and then you have your middle finger after that, and then you'll have your ring finger and your pinky. So that middle finger is the longest. Just make sure you have all of those. So I'm just going to clean up some of those lines here for you to see better. Also, too, make sure that your thumb is curved on the right side of the thumb, straight on the left side. And everything connects right back to our wrist socket. I'm going to go and erase inside of our hand so you can see that even better. I usually use a flat brush that is not wet in any way, just to wipe away some of the erase marks. Guideline number 2, it goes straight down in the middle of that shoulder, right across the hand, a diagonal line. And then we measure shoulder to waist, put in your socket for the elbow. And then your waist to crotch, put in your socket for the wrist. In my case, the hand would cover my elbow socket, so fill out the arm around that. All right, so now for our thumb, we go up with a bit of a parenthesis shape, and then we curve and come back down. And now from that thumb, we go straight up, and that's going to be our index finger. We go across and come back down. The left side will be the pinky. And now 3 lines to represent our 4 fingers. Don't forget to add those W shapes for the knuckles, and that will do it for that hand. Finish off by rounding with a frown shape at the top of each finger. Remember, the middle finger should be the longest and the pinky should be the smallest. The pinky is on the far left, the thumb is on the far right. Okay, I'm going to erase and clean it up a little bit so you can see those lines. Make sure that you clean that off on your paper. And then once again, I'm using a brush, just a dry flat brush, to wipe away any eraser pieces that are left over. So now I'm just going to stylize and taper some of these lines, touch up some of these details, make sure that it goes in at the elbow and that it goes in at the wrist, and then we'll move on. Let's turn our head to the left. Make sure you draw it about 1/4 of an inch lower. The second time around, we lower the head to bring it to the front. So it's flatter on the left because she's looking to the left, and more round on the right. And now we can erase the original head. We only lower the head at the very end because we use our original measuring of our head to measure the whole entire sketch. So when you clean that up and erase, you can tighten up any lines that might not be exactly as you want. And that will be it for this tutorial. All right, I'll look forward to seeing you in class. Until then, happy sketching.